Hare Krishna. Welcome to another evening in Lives of the Vaishnava Acaryas. My name is Chaturatma. Very happy to have you all here with us. I see from the chat room we have a few of our usual names there. Manjesh, Kartik, Devidasi, nice to have you both with us. And I know we'll get a few more coming in as the evening rolls on. We have a handful that always make it just at the upset once we get rolling. Is the sound and picture good for everybody? Just drop us a little line, Kartik, if you would. Let us know if everything's fine. I see, looks like Manjesh is indicating it is. So, here we go. All right. Last week, I was, as I mentioned, Mauricio, there you are. I was looking for your name, Baba. Hare Krishna. All right. Last week, as I mentioned, I was feeling a little out of focus in the sense that I didn't have anything really stuck into my head as to what I was going to do. And so we did a potpourri of things last week, and it turned out very nice. Actually, it was a very wonderful session. This week, I was coming into the home stretch with the same feeling. I don't know what it was, but just couldn't focus on anything. And so I stopped by to see one of my very dear mothers, Mother Indrani, on my way home from work as I was coming home to prepare for everything. And I had a wonderful conversation with her about seizing the moment and about really just committing ourselves to something. And it was helping both her and I. She was making a decision about doing something, and I was trying to apply it to myself as we spoke. And then I got in the car and I put on my MP3 player and I was listening to lectures of Radhanath Maharaj, and I came across a lecture. I was thinking I was going to speak about this one or that one, and I'm not going to say who because I'm going to end up using them later. But I stumbled across a lecture about Gangamata Goswamini. And as I started to listen to the lecture, of course I have a very short drive to my house, so I only got about 8 minutes. But I realized, yes, this is who I'm going to speak about tonight. So I went home and I compiled all my information from my different files and different sources and put everything together. And this evening, by the grace of the Vaishnavas, by the permission of the Lord, I'm going to speak about his dearmost associate, Gangamata Goswamini. There are many, many different personalities that when we speak about them in reference to Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, their lives are just so exemplary. And Gangamata Goswamini is such an individual. Just a little bit of, I guess you might say, familial, historical background about Gangamata Goswamini. She was actually initiated in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shakti, Srila Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, of course, was the incarnation of Radharani, member of the Panchatattva. And his disciple was Ananta Acharya. Now, in Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita, he mentions that the following information about Ananta Acharya. He says he was always absorbed in the love of God. Magnanimous and advanced in all respects was this disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. He was a reservoir of all good qualities. No one can estimate how great he was. Pandit Haridas was his beloved disciple. Now, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami goes on to explain about Pandit Haridas. He says he was the chief servitor at the Govindaji temple. His qualities and his fame are known all over the world. At least through the use of the internet, they'll now be known all over the world. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues, he was gentle, tolerant, peaceful, magnanimous, grave, sweet in his words, and very sober in his endeavors. He was respectful to everyone and worked for the benefit of all. Diplomacy, envy, and jealousy were unknown in his heart. And what a wonderful thing if any of our friends or our god brothers, god sisters, associates could say, oh yes, so-and-so. Diplomacy, envy, jealousy, didn't have it in him. It was so wonderful. Krishnadas Kaviraj then finishes by saying the 50 general qualities of Lord Krishna were all present in his body. And, of course, Haridas Pandit was the guru of Gangamata Goswamini. Now, we do not find such vast names. I mean, the names of Rupa, Sanatan, Narottam, Srinivas, these are names we're all very familiar with. Hridoy Chaitanya, Shamananda, these are all names we're very familiar with. But these names, Ananta Acharya, Haridas Pandit, Gangamata Goswamini, these may not be names that we're familiar with. But as we see from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's description, they're very important personalities in Mahaprabhu's pastimes, in his family of associates. And as we will see from tonight, even more so, Gangamata Goswamini. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wrote one Anubhasya on the different Bengali Vaishnavas and some history of Chaitanya Lila. So in his Anubhasya, he mentions that during the advent of Lord Sri Krishna, Ananta Acharya was Sudevi, one of the principal 8 gopis. Now, those of you that are familiar with, are looking at the internet or have in your mind's eye the 8 gopis in Mayapur, one of those 8 gopis in Mayapur is Sudevi. I actually have very fond memories of the fact that I was able to assist Gaurkeshava Prabhu under the direction of the leaders of Mayapur at the time in installing those first 4 gopis at Radha Madhava Mandir, of which Sudevi was one of them. Very, very wonderful. Nice memory. And this is continued and confirmed rather in the Gaura Gonadesha Dipika by Kavi Karnapur, that Ananta Acharya Goswami was formerly Sudevi in Braj. One of his disciples, this is Kavi Karnapur speaking still, one of his disciples, Haridas Pandit Goswami, was known as Rasa Manjari. And he had 2 very important disciples. One of them was Lakshmi Priya. This is not the Lakshmi Priya that was Mahaprabhu's wife, but one of them was Lakshmi Priya, and her niece, Gangamata Goswamini, the daughter of the Raj of Puntiya. So we can see here that these are very important personalities. And one of the purposes of this Monday night webcast on the lives of the Vaishnava Acharyas is to familiarize us with not just personalities like, Rupa and Sanatan, but personalities like Haridas and Ananta Acharya and Gangamata Goswamini and a couple whose names we're going to come up with next week. So in this way, this is a wonderful opportunity. So we're going to start now with a little bit of the life of this great Vaishnavi. Modern day times we have the state of Bangladesh, the country of Bangladesh. Bangladesh previously was East Bengal. And East Bengal, of course, we know this is where Narottam Das Thakur was sent to preach. West Bengal belonged to Srinivas Acharya, and Orissa was given to Shamananda. So in the area of West Bengal, in the area of what was then Bangladesh, there was a kingdom ruled by one wonderful king. They say there's some problem with the... Now, I would imagine that's because they need to read, or it's from their server probably, right?
Because the audio is not matching the video.
Ah, okay.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Is there something we can do, or is it just...
There may be something I can do.
Well, we're going to try and correct that. In the meantime, you can just make believe you're watching a transcendental Asian martial arts film where the English comes over after the mouth is moved. At any rate, we'll give a try to fix that, Prabhus. All right. Kartik says it matches for her, so it may just be the server. They say the sound's also cutting out. We're going to work on that, but in the meantime, I'm going to continue since some of you have no problem with it and some are having a problem. I guess it may also be in part due to where the connection is in the world. So, but give us some time.
That's about what we can do.
Oh, there? Okay, well, you just plug something in that should correct it. So, we're going to move on from here. So, there's this kingdom in modern day Bangladesh, what was East Bengal, and this kingdom is run by Sri Naresh Narayana. And King Naresh Narayana had a very, very wonderful life, a very pious wife, and they had one child, only one child, and that was a daughter. So she was the princess, and you can imagine the dear joy of her mother and father. Her name was Sachi. Sachi, from early childhood, was an exceptional child. great, great devotee of the Lord, always fixed on pastimes of the Lord and hearing them and acting them out like that. Within a very short time in her life, of course, she began her studies and her education. And it mentions that very, very quickly she absorbed herself in grammar and poetry like that and mastered them right off. But after she mastered these basic introductory subjects for education, she immediately began to pursue the Shastras, the different religious writings. And she absorbed herself and became very, very just immersed in these different things. Even as a young girl, it mentioned she was completely fascinated by Krishna consciousness. And so, in due course of time, she came of marriageable age. And King Naresh Narayana and his good wife decided, well, they had to arrange for her marriage. So they spoke with Sachi about this was the time that we're going to begin to plan. And Sachi had already in her mind sold herself out to Madan Gopal. And she was always engaged in thinking of Madan Gopal and serving Madan Gopal, meditating in this way. So when the mother and father proposed marriage, she said flatly, I'm not interested. The mother and father said, no, you must get married. Every girl has to be married. This is, So she said, all right, I will agree to marriage on one condition. You could provide me with a husband that is free of this world of death. Now, of course, who is free of death? That is the nature of this material world, that we're born and we die. So in this way, the mother and father thought, anyway, just some, so they were bringing suitors forward. And of course, she's a very beautiful girl, the only daughter of a great king, and quite wealthy and highly educated. So, suitors were coming left and right, and they were all being turned away. She was just dismissing them, had absolutely no interest. Her mind was always instead filled with the thoughts of Madan Gopal. So beautiful, intelligent, fluent in Sanskrit, fluent in Bengali, fluent in the different Shastras. So, but not at all interested in entering into this material world. So, in due course of time, the mother and father became disappointed that this was not happening. And of course, by the law of nature, they became quite elderly. And they decided, we'll just give up on this. And in time, they passed away. Now, she was the only child. And she was an educated person. It wasn't unheard of for a woman to take responsibility. So the kingdom was passed on to her. She was assisted by other family members and all. But she was engaged in taking over the kingdom. It fell to her. So she accepted the responsibilities of governing the kingdom and continued her interest and her pursuit of the religious shastras and religious activities and like this. So one day, she decided no longer would she tolerate the affairs of the state. But she couldn't simply walk away. So on the plea of both as her responsibility as the Raj or Rani, going and checking the kingdom and touring the kingdom as a king would do to see that everything was going on, and under the dual plea of being able to go on pilgrimage to different holy places in the region, she arranged to set out and go. So she appointed different family members. This one will take charge of this activity, this one will take charge of that activity. Jointly you'll be overseen by the ministers, and so on like that. And she in that way went. And she wandered throughout the region. She had one goal fixed in her heart while she was traveling, and that was to find a suitable spiritual master. She wandered to so many different pilgrimage places. She went to different districts in the kingdom. She was not able to find anyone that would bring satisfaction to her heart. After much traveling, one day she ended up in Jagannath Puri. Puri, of course, Orissa, very neighboring state there, so she decided, I should go and see Jagannath. So, in this way, she went before the deities of Jagannath, and while taking darshan of Sri Jagannath Dev, who is none different than Madan Gopal, the very Ishtadev of her heart, Jagannath gave her an instruction. And Jagannath indicated that she should leave and go to Vrindavan, that she should travel in Vrindavan. And when she understood this instruction, she felt that the full moon of good in her life had manifested itself. So she took her deities and she began to go to Vrindavan alone, on foot, for 3,000-4,000 mile journey? Some great distance. So she eventually arrived in Vrindavan. After some period of travel, not much is given as far as the hardships or lack of hardships or the different sites that she saw or places she went to. When Narottam traveled, of course, we have much detail. When Sanatana Goswami was traveling in this way, we have much detail. But in this regard, there's not so much. But it does say that she finally arrived in Vrindavan. And arriving in Vrindavan, she became mad, searching for Krishna, looking to find Krishna, searching for Krishna everywhere, wandering here and there, going to this forest and that forest, going to Bumpsy Bhat, going to banyan trees, asking, where is Krishna? Can you tell me where is Krishna? Then when she was in Vrindavan, she happened to meet Haridas Pandit. Haridas Pandit had single-minded devotion to Lord Gauranga and Lord Nityananda. Matter of fact, his devotion to Gauranga and Nityananda was unsurpassed. So focused was he. He was always chanting and remembering the pastimes of Krishna. He would also give classes regularly. And all the Brijbasis would go to the Brijbasis, not all the Brijbasis, but the Brijbasis would regularly come and hear his lectures and his classes. And so in this way, Sachi Devi also, she used to go and listen to his classes. She became very attracted by his qualities. So upon seeing the spiritual potency and the austerity of this wonderful personality, she became filled with ecstasy and decided that she would meet him. So after meditating in this way for several days, Sachi went before Haridas after one evening's lecture and asked him for shelter. Asked him for initiation, to please give direction to her. She told him, she said, I've come to take shelter of you. Please, you must give me initiation. Otherwise, I will die. I want to see Krishna and I want to serve Radha and Krishna. So, hearing this request, she became very happy. He became very happy, Haridas. So, as is recommended, he decided that he should test his aspiring disciple. This is the duty of the spiritual master. Not to just whimsically accept disciples. Actually, I cannot recall which Shastra it is now, but it mentions that if one whimsically accepts disciples without testing them, then this is very detrimental to his spiritual advancement. So, the important thing is that he decided, I will give her some tests. So, he said that, he said, you are the daughter of a king. You've come to live in Vrindavan. It is not possible. You cannot live as a poor devotee, constantly absorbed in bhajan with very little to eat and no bodily and living comforts. But it will be better for you to return to your home and just worship there instead of coming to Vrindavan. And you may remember when Narottam Das Thakur first met Lokanath Goswami, Lokanath posed similar questions. The story is told by Lochan Das Thakur in his Chaitanya Bhagavat. He mentions how the first questions that Lokanath said, oh, you're a prince? Oh, you are not qualified to stay here. Like this. So, you're testing him like that. So in the same way. Now, of course, Sri Sachi Devi was no ignorant person. She understood very clearly. She was well versed in the scriptures. She was well versed in the Shastras, so she could understand very clearly, oh, my spiritual master is testing me. So in this way, she paid no attention to these words of discouragement. This was the intent of Haridas, to test her, so she didn't pay any. She continued with fierce determination, with renunciation, and with severe austerity to absorb herself in her bhajan and in the service that she saw to be the service to her guru. She was very austere in her living, and step by step she began to renounce her opulent dress. I mean, she was a very wealthy king's daughter, so dressing very nicely. And sometimes we see, I just recently did Braj Mandala Parikram in the fall, and we see sometimes the devotees come, and particularly we're talking about Gangamata Goswamini, so we can say ladies and not offend anyone. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the ladies come and they go on the parikrama and they're dressed very, very nicely with the sufficient amount of makeup and the sufficient decoration of bangles and jewelry and nice saris and excellent cholis cut in the latest fashion. Mm-hmm. So like this is not really the mood, but at any rate, so Sachi Devi began to renounce these things, these opulent dress and these ornaments, little by little, gradually like that, until one day Haridas called for Sachi Devi. If you like, he said, giving up all pride and fear, you may continue to wander all throughout Braj and practice begging from place to place as a renounced devotee. You have my blessings to do that. So upon hearing these words from the personality she had accepted as her spiritual master, her joy knew no bounds. This is like getting her first instructions. So she was very, very ecstatic. So thereafter, being freed from false ego, her body only covered in bare rags and simple dress, she went from house to house in Vrindavan, performing her bhajan. And when she would go from house to house, she would beg alms in the fashion of a bumblebee, what's called madhukari. A bumblebee goes, takes a little something from this flower, a little something from that flower, a little something from that flower, and in that way maintains itself. So she would go and just take a little something, you know. Her renunciation and austerity was so intense, she would go to some grahasta's home and beg just, you know, maybe 1/4 of a chapati. Okay, maybe 1/2 of a chapati. And then maybe just some handful of dal, something like that. So a little bit of rice. So in this way, just going door to door and taking minimum like that. Now, of course, we remember that this example was there in Mother Vishnu Priya, Mahaprabhu's widow, when Mahaprabhu departed to take sannyas, and then when he ultimately departed from this world, she would eat very, very simply. Just taking mantra, and whatever full round she chanted, whatever full mantra, she would set one piece of rice aside. At the end of the day, cooking that. As a result, she became very weak. So in the same way, it mentions how Sachi's body became very frail and weak, and she became very thin. This happens when one performs austerities. The bodily condition diminishes. The Goswamis and Srinivas's Sadgosamastakam, he mentions how the Goswamis were so thin, performing such austerities, you know, not living very comfortable lives, moving from tree to tree every night, living basically with one loincloth like that. So in this way, she was becoming very austere, and as a result of living like this, she became even covered in soot and dirt, you know, not taking care of her body at all. She took no notice, was not conscious. All of us, you know, I know after a day of working out in my garden, I'm finished at the end of the day, and I know I am covered in dirt. Let me get in and wash all this off. So, but these devotees, they're not absorbed on that platform. So, Manjesh has just asked why she has the name Gangamata Goswamini. You're jumping way ahead of the story, Baba. We'll discuss that in a little bit. So, in this way, she was completely off the bodily platform of life. Very austere regimen she followed. Physically, she was always exhausted from her service. Very, very diligent service she would render. And she would sleep just on the bank of the Jamuna, just be at the bank of the Jamuna, decide to sleep, and Sachi would lay down and sleep like that. She would regularly circumambulate the different holy places in Vrindavan, going here, going there, watching the arti of the deity at the different types of temples, hearing lectures from different sadhus on the Bhagavatam, in this way absorbing herself to try and get this wonderful experience of devotional service. So seeing this intense renunciation of Sachi Devi, Pandit Haridas decided that I will give her initiation. His heart was filled with compassion upon this serious, devout devotee of the Lord. So smiling, he called Sachi Devi to him one day. He said, "You are such a princess." Now, of course, nowadays, sometimes we say like that, "Oh, quit being such a princess." I've maybe once or twice said that to my little girl, my youngest daughter. Well, she's not so little anymore, but she's always my princess. So at any rate, sometimes we say it like that. So here, Haridas is saying, "Oh, you were such a princess, and yet you have made such an intense effort to renounce that and only worship Krishna. Seeing your renunciation and austerity, I have become very happy at seeing how it has filled you with devotion. Very soon I will give you initiation into the mantra." And in a short course of time, he did just that. He initiated her into the 18-syllable mantra, and this took place in the Govindaji temple on the Chaitra Shukla Ekadasi. So sometimes people think, "Oh, we shouldn't do initiation on Ekadasi," but this is the answer here. Other places answer, but at any rate, this is there. So Haridas then gave the following instructions to Sachi Devi. He told her how to properly chant bhajan, how to properly remember smarnam, and how to practice devotional service in the line of Rupa Goswami, how to accept Krishna as her only beloved, and how she should serve under the direction of Srimati Radhika. Very wonderful directions. So after her initiation, Sachi Devi felt the intensity of her love for Krishna increase amazingly. And she was always weeping in separation of Krishna. She used to chant, 1 lakh is 100,000? 3 lakhs, 100,000 names of the Lord every day. And always absorbed in her japa. Sometimes we struggle just to get 16 done and try to pretend we are actually listening to 2 of them. So in this way, she was chanting 100,000 names of the Lord a day and always absorbed in that. And her guru never gave her bhajan kutir to live at. Sometimes devotees would arrange, "Okay, you stay here, we'll make a hut for you there." He said to her, "You arrange this yourself. It is not my duty to take care of your facilities." So in this way, she used to live in a broken down temple on the Jamuna banks. Nowadays, if you go for the Vrindavan Parikrama, when I was there just this past Kartik, I remember everyone knows there's the Parikram path that goes all the way around Vrindavan, and at one point on the bank of the Jamuna, as we remember from my tour on the Vrindavan Parikram, it goes through Keshigat area. And there's one whole section of the Keshigat area. If you go to Dandabats, by the way, you'll see pictures posted right now connected to the article Dina Bandhu Prabhu has posted about the boat festival that recently took place in the Jamuna. So you'll see pictures of Keshigat there. Now, at that Keshigat, there are many old little bhajan kutir sort of like buildings that are abandoned. And some of these used to be temples. So in this way, one such place like that, she would stay there. And that's where she lived. Some broken down old temple on the Jamuna. And she would perform her sadhana bhajan in that location. She never made arrangements to take prasad. "Oh wait, it's getting to be noon, okay, I need to adjust this or cook this or go and collect that," not like that at all. She would simply, as the circumstances allowed, she would go door to door, whatever time of day it wasn't, according to whatever circumstance. Madhukari style, as we mentioned, begging a little bit of foodstuffs this way. She would take just smallest amount. Everybody loved her and appreciated her devotion and wanted to give her so much. Oh, here, take this. No. Here, take some fruits, take some vegetable. We just cooked some nice shak. Here we have some loki and like that. But no, she didn't want any of that. We would just take very, very small portion of whatever she was given. She never wore any nice clothing after that. Dressing very, very simply. Always just an old, worn, white cloth. And so in this way, of course, she had very simple facility, living in one of those old crumbling buildings on the bank of the Jamuna like that. After some period of time, when she was about 25 years old, remember she went to Vrindavan when she was very young, so after she was about 25 years old, her guru told her that you should go to Radhakund, to the place of Gangamata Goswamini, and do bhajan there just like he did. Very nice instruction. So in this way she began to prepare. Now, Haridas did not want that Sachi should be alone by herself. Excuse me. Okay. What's that? The water verse. Anyway, so at any rate, Haridas Pandit did not like that Sachi should be living by herself, be alone. This wasn't proper, neither was it safe for her. There are still dacoits around. So he had one disciple named Lakshmi Priya. Lakshmi Priya was some maybe 20, 25, maybe even 30 years older than Sachi. So at that time, and he was very, very affectionate. She was a disciple also of Haridas, and he was very affectionate. So she had just arrived in Vrindavan to retire from the world. So when she arrived, she was also, I should mention, she was also very, very senior, very mature, and advanced in her performance of bhajan, in her chanting of the holy name. So when she arrived, just as Raghunath Das was placed in the hands of Sarup Damodar by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Pandit placed Sachi in the hands of Lakshmi Priya. He sent them both to reside at Radhakund. Now, just imagine, you have some time, you're living in the Dham, and even when we go there just temporarily for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever, we develop friendships there with the devotees. So we have a devotee we're there with. I know during the Kartik, there's a group of devotees that go and live out at Govardhan, and they develop a very close relationship. Two that come to mind, two friends of mine, Vaisheshika and Bhagavat Ashraya. They stay there for the entire month of Kartik. Develop a very wonderful friendship, circumambulating Govardhan Hill, performing bhajan, doing different reading together, chanting together like this. So this was the activities of Lakshmi Priya and Sachi. Every day they would circumambulate Govardhan Hill together. Every single day, going around Govardhan Hill together, very nicely, stopping at the different holy places, performing different devotional activities, returning back to Radhakund. Many of the sadhus lived and continue to live there at Radhakund and would branch out to go around Govardhan from there and then return like that. Now, Lakshmi Priya herself used to chant 300,000 names of the Lord a day. So Manjesh in the chat room was just, wow, 1 lakh. So imagine, wow, 3 lakhs. So this was what Lakshmi Priya would chant. This means the majority of her day was engaged in chanting, 22, 24, 23 hours, something like that. Barely an hour or two left for the other activities in this way. So she and Sachi Devi in this way became very, very attached to the company of each other. And they continued to worship Krishna with great determination, living there on the banks of Radhakund. For the next several years, Sachi continued in this way, doing her Madhukari, performing her austerities, circumambulating Govardhan Hill, maintaining herself in a very simple and humble way, and performing bhajan day and night. It was no difficulty for her to sleep, because she didn't sleep. She hardly ever slept, they say. So after several years longer, her guru, Haridas Pandit, who had become quite elderly, he now said to her, you should leave Vrindavan and go to Nilachala, near the Gambhira of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should remain there for some long period of time and preach the message of Sri Chaitanya. In this way, you will develop perfection. So do not delay. Go right away. You should discover the place of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Now, by this time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house had fallen into ruin and was not being kept up. So she was told by Haridas, at the present time this house is in ruins. You should go there. No one is taking care of it. Practically, it has disappeared. So by going there, you can rejuvenate it and rediscover it. Make a simple temple there and worship there, live there, take prasadam from Lord Jagannath there. So in this way, she embraced the instruction of her spiritual master to leave Vrindavan. Some of us might find that a very hard instruction. But she took it upon herself, placed those instructions upon her head as the feet of her guru, and left Vrindavan. Now you may ask, did Lakshmi Priya go with her? By this time Lakshmi Priya had departed from this world. As I mentioned, when she first met Sachi, she was some 50 years old. So by this time she had departed from this world, no longer there. So Sachi Devi left Vrindavan and went to Jagannath Puri. And when she arrived in Jagannath Puri, she went to the home, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, where he had stayed. And she stayed there and engaged in bhajan and began to give classes there at his house on the Srimad Bhagavatam, arranging little by little to fix things up and engaging some of the local people, either their funds in the way of supporting or their direct help in the way of renovating the place and making it a little nice. It was quite dilapidated and all crumbling apart. You know, the type of construction back then can easily fall apart if it's not maintained. For a long time, nobody had lived there. No one had lived there. No one had remained there to worship the Damodar Shalagram Shila that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya worshipped. Sachi Devi discovered that Damodar Shila in the ruins of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. She could understand that this was the Damodar Shila worshipped by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and she personally began to worship. Now, this is very important on two particular fronts. One is the fact that the continuation, if you will, of the worship of the Shalagram Shila of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was finally reinstated. And a second thing is sometimes persons who are uninformed, I don't want to be impolite and say uneducated, but who are uninformed say that, oh, women cannot worship the Shalagram Shila. Actually, in Sanatana Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas, in the Shalagram Kosha, which is a academic work on the history and worship of Shalagram Shila, and here we see by the example also of Sachi, this is not a fact, that women can worship the Shalagram Shila. Now, I know many ladies that worship the Shalagram Shila. So, in this way, she began to establish first-class worship according to all the proper and traditional rules and regulations of the Shastras. And in her classes, she would present a very wonderful Siddhantic interpretation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Her instructions all the local devotees would come daily to Sarvabhauma's house to hear her classes and to hear her preaching and speaking in this way. In the short time that she was there, her Bhagavatam classes became famous. And people would come from all over Puri and even the outlying areas of Puri just to hear her speak. So one day, the king of Jagannath Puri, Mukundadev, now of course there's been different kings throughout history. At this particular time, the king's name was Mukundadev. And he came to hear the Bhagavatam from Sachi Devi. Now, if the king of Puri were to come to hear the Bhagavatam, big, huge entourage, and, such distraction from the Bhagavatam would be made to receive the king properly and give him a seat and so on and so on. So the king went in disguise, incognito. Now this was not something new. We know in the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Pratap Maharaj went incognito to get the mercy of Mahaprabhu. He took off his kingly garb and went as a simple man to get the blessings and the association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this was following in the line of the kings of Jagannath Puri. So in this way he came to hear. And hearing her very unique and wonderful explanations of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the king became completely astounded. He thought to himself, I should make a very nice offering to this Sachi Devi. So, out of appreciation, he decided that he would try and think of some wonderful gift to give her. So that evening he returned to his palace, and he had a dream. And in that dream, Lord Jagannath came to him and said, you offer Sachi Devi a place on the bank of the Ganges. So there's a section of land called Sweta Ganga, which is just a short distance from Orissa, from Puri itself, just in that area there. So in this way, the following day, the king went to Sachi Devi's association, and this time he came as the king because he wanted to be able to be taken seriously with his gift. So she received him very nicely, gave him a wonderful place to sit. In great humility she offered respects to him and thanked him for his visit. So King Mukundadev explained that he had received instructions through a dream from Lord Jagannath to offer her a place on the Ganges. So Sachi Devi did not want to accept any type of wealth. This wasn't her position, any comfortable position, any type of nice facility, so she refused. She said, no, thank you, I'm not interested. But the king pressed. No, this is the wish of Lord Jagannath. He has decreed that you should take this. So when she heard that this was Jagannath's desire, and that the king was so enthusiastic, she accepted. And he gave her a place near what's called the Sweta Ganga. It's called the White Ganges. So he gave a decree, the king did, that Sachi Devi was a princess who had left everything to come and serve Lord Jagannath and to preach the gospel of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore he was awarding her this residence at Sweta Ganga. So one day there was an approaching time called the Mahavaruni Snan. Mahavaruni Snan. And Sachi Devi wanted to go to this place in the Ganga to take bath. But she had been instructed by her guru to go to Puri and reside in Puri and not leave there. So she was thinking, I can't really leave. I've been instructed by my spiritual masters to stay here. So she gave up that desire to go and bathe in the Ganga. All right, I will not do it. He has given me this. It's just like one accepts the instruction of the spiritual master and rejects all other mental concoctions that's recommended in Shastra. So she accepted this instruction and did away with the idea. That night, Lord Jagannath appeared to her in a dream. And Lord Jagannath said, do not think that you should not leave. The day when Varuni will take bath is the day you must go to the Sweta Ganga and take bath there. Ganga Devi has been praying to me daily for your association. So you must go and satisfy her desire. So in this way, she was convinced. So after having this divine dream of Lord Jagannath, she was very joyful at the idea of getting to go to the Ganga. So the day of Varuni Snan came, and in the middle of the night, she went out from her little ashram area and went to the Sweta Ganga to take her bath. As she was bathing in that Sweta Ganga, the current of Mother Ganga Devi began to pick up, and the waves began to churn. We might remember how the Padmavati River churned at the entrance of Mahaprabhu, and then again at the entrance of Narottam Das Thakur. So when she entered into this Sweta Ganga, the river began to churn. This body of water began to churn enthusiastically and began moving and moving, and it overflooded the banks. And the current ran into a flood until it arrived all the way into the city of Puri at the gates of the Jagannath Mandir. Seeing this, thousands of people came forward thinking, this is our chance to bathe in the Ganga. They all came and bathed in the Ganga there, thinking, oh, this is so wonderful. All the Dambasis came and everyone was bathing in the Ganga, so ecstatic and shouting and screaming and kirtan and bathing in the Ganga, and so much happiness. In this way, the four directions were filled with various prayers and shouts of great ecstasy and a huge commotion. So in the midst of all this jubilation, everyone took their bath in the Ganga. So this noise, of course, woke the guards at the Jagannath temple, and they were speechless, seeing this commotion going on in all directions everywhere they looked. So they heard this great noise also inside the temple. So they began talking loudly amongst themselves. What has happened? How could this noise come about? Someone has broken into the temple. What's going on? But they checked. All the doors were closed, so they sent for the king. So the king came, and the king came to see what was happening, and he said, yes, yes, open the doors to the temple. So the gates of the temple were open, and when the gates were opened, the most amazing thing, there in the room with Lord Jagannath was Mother Ganga. Mother Sachi. Lost the punchline on that. Somehow or another, by the mercy of Ganga Devi, she had been deposited at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. So the servants, of course, they thought, who are you? You were in the locked room of Jagannath. You've come to steal his riches. So in this way, they decided, no, you were simply a thief, and they arrested her and put her into the king's dungeons. No, she did not say anything. They were going to have her stand trial for theft. So in Sachi's mind, however, there was no weakness or confusion about what had actually taken place. She simply in the prison absorbed herself in the chanting of the holy name. There's one wonderful lecture, Srila Prabhupada, not so much nowadays, but back in the late 60s and early 70s, many times when we would go out into the streets and do Harinam, we'd be locked up. I remember that happened to us once in St. Louis. We were chanting in the park, and the police came and said, you must stop. And our temple president said, no, we must not. This is our religious right. So they arrested us all, put us in the paddy wagon. The paddy wagon pulled up, put us on and took us away. So this was happening also in Australia, in London. Prabhupada says on these tapes these different things. But Prabhupada's instruction is, why should we be disturbed? We can chant Hare Krishna in the jail as well. So this was the mood of Sachi. She was thinking, all right, anyway, I'm here, so I'll simply absorb myself in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So all throughout the day she engaged like that. That evening the king had a dream, another dream. And Jagannath came before him in a very angry mood. He told him immediately, you must release Sachi Devi from your dungeons. It was because I personally wanted to arrange for washing her holy feet that I had the Ganga bring her into my temple in that manner. If you want your life to be auspicious, then you better make the pandas and the priests bow before her and pray to be forgiven for their offenses to her. Go at once and you yourself beg for her forgiveness. Bring Gangamata Thakurani He addressed her like that. This is the word Jagannath used. So Manjesh, you paying attention here? He said, bring Gangamata Thakurani on a golden chariot with the sound of drums and conch shells and other paraphernalia that is used in a royal reception. You should become a disciple of hers, along with all of your priests and the other prominent persons in your court. So seeing this dream, the king woke up and became completely repentant. So he took his bath and immediately took all the pujaris and the pandas in a big procession. He went to Gangamata Goswamini, immediately released her, fell at her feet, and begged for forgiveness. The king himself went before Sachi Devi, and with great prostration and repentance and prayers, asked her to forgive him. So at that time, he told Sachi Devi how Lord Jagannath had come and chastised him. Understanding all of these activities, from going to the Ganga to being washed to Lord Jagannath to the imprisonment to be the divine pastime of Lord Jagannath, Sachi Devi became extremely joyful. Her heart filled with divine love for Krishna, and she placed her hand upon the king and gave him her blessings. Soon after this, on the auspicious day, with the blessings of Lord Jagannath, she initiated the king into the 18-syllable Radha Krishna mantra. Along with the king, many of his pujaris and the pandas in the temple all took initiation from her in that way. Now the king, as is appropriate, take initiation, you have to give some dakshin. The king wanted to give some dakshin to her. He wanted to give a large amount of land. But Sachi Devi refused that. She'd already accepted this one residence he gave. She wasn't going to take more land. So the king continued to beg, no, please, there must be something I can do for you. Give me some service. So finally she said, all right, every day at the midday, after the midday offering, 2 containers of Mahaprasadam rice, 1 container of Mahaprasad vegetables, a cloth, and 160 paisa should be given to the service of every Vaishnava here. So this was at the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So from that day forward, Sachi became known as Gangamata Goswamini, the renounced celibate disciple who received the mercy of Mother Ganga. Gangamata Goswamini, one who was in control of her senses and received the blessings of Mother Ganga. So her residence there became known as the Gangamata Mat. And to this day, after the midday offering, these 2 containers of Mahaprasad rice, 1 container of sabji, a cloth, and 160 paisa are delivered to that mat. So, very nice story. Let's see, there's so many other stories. I think what we'll do, coming a little bit along the top of the hour, we'll finish with one wonderful deity story. There was Gangamata, of course, continued to give classes. She would speak regularly and talk about the Bhagavatam and service to the Lord in this way. And many devotees, the king would attend, and many of the residents, the highly advanced devotees of Puri, would attend her classes. So one day, while she was absorbed in speaking about the pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a Brahmin came from Jaipur to see her. Now that Brahmin had a deity of Roy Kishore. And interesting thing, the deity came to this Brahmin in a dream when he was in Jaipur and said, take me to Puri and give me to Gangamata Thakurani. She will serve me very nicely. If you don't do what I'm asking you to do, I'm going to curse you. Because you're not doing proper service to me. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you give an offering, sometimes you don't give an offering. Sometimes you bathe me, sometimes you don't bathe me. So you're not doing the service as you used to. Therefore, you take me to Puri, give me to Gangamata Thakurani. Otherwise, I'll curse you and your entire family will be finished. I think that's what you call the original guilt trip. So the Brahmin took this beautiful Thakurji in a basket and walked on foot for many months. Basically, he's practically crossing half of India. So eventually he came to Puri, and he approached Gangamata Thakurani, and he requested, Goswamini, Thakurji has come. He wants to be served by you. You please take him and do seva. So she said, no. He said, I'm doing Manasa Seva in the mood of Rupa Goswami. I do not have time to do worship externally. I am doing internal. This is not my purpose. I'm sorry, I cannot take it. It's very nice of you to offer, but no thank you. So the Brahmin became very worried. He began to think, Thakurji has told me if I do not give him to Gangamata Thakurani, he will curse me. My family will be finished. But I have come all this way, and I've offered, and she has refused. Now what will I do? So he began to think. That night he saw that Gangamata Goswamini had a beautiful Tulsi garden. So he took the Thakurji and left him in that Tulsi garden. And then he departed from Puri. He figured this is the only way it was going to happen. This is the garden of Gangamata Thakurani. So he put the deity of Roy Kishore there. About 4 o'clock the next morning, Roy Kishore appears to Gangamata Goswamini. He says, so? He says, I have come for your service. You are neglecting me. I came all this way for your love and your affection, and you're neglecting me. I am thirsty. I'm hungry. You have not given me anything. Please, you must take care of me. Prepare something and offer it to me, for I am hungry. So she immediately went and found the deity there in her Tulsi garden. So she was so charmed by the beauty of Roy Kishore. Such a beautiful deity. She took him up in her arms, brought him into the temple, and began that day to worship him. And that deity is still there, worshipped in this nice way. When the king heard this story about his spiritual master, he thought, I am most fortunate to be the disciple of such a great devotee. This is a wonderful thought, that we think, I am most fortunate to be the disciple of such a great devotee. So in this Gangamata Mat, currently to this day, there are 5 sets of deities. There's Shri Shri Radha Rasika Roy, Shri Shri Radha Shamsundar, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Radha Vinod, and Shri Shri Radha Raman. With these deities is also the Damodar Shalagram Shila that was worshipped by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and a dancing figure of Gauranga Mahaprabhu is there. So these are some of the pastimes that we can understand about Gangamata Goswamini, a wonderful devotee of the Lord, an exalted follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the dear beloved of Madan Gopal. So it's a little bit after the top of the hour. We thank you very much for listening. I see we do have a few questions here in the chat room, so we'll take a couple of minutes here. R.T. Devi Dasi has just asked about the Rath Yatra, and does the Rath Yatra have to be once a year? The Rath Yatra is held once a year, yes. Traditionally, it comes just after the Gundisha Marjana, when the temple is cleaned. It is during the summertime. There was some recent controversy in Puri about our Rath Yatras being at different times of the year around the world, but Srila Prabhupada adapted that, adjusted it for the particular country that we were in, and the time that was best suited for Rath Yatra there. But in general, yes, Rath Yatra is once a year. If anyone else has any questions or any other subject they would like to put forward, this is a very good time to do this. The 3 most prominent ladies in our Sampradaya are Janavamata, Gangamata Goswamini, and Gangadasi, the daughter of Lord Nityananda. Mauricio is asking that we cannot imitate great souls, so how are we to follow in their footsteps in regards to these austerities? Well, we can perform austerity as we're able. Srila Prabhupada, one time, this was in, I think it was 1974, if my memory serves me correctly, and there was one devotee doing some very severe fasting. It's a famous tape. Let me see, it's 74, no, it's 75. I believe the lecture is entitled What Foods to Eat. It's a morning walk with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Bhavananda, I can't remember all the other people. And there's a discussion about different types of diets and different types of fasting. And Prabhupada says, if one can fast, it is very good. Now, one shouldn't fast, and as a result, their service finishes. Prabhupada makes that point as well. But according to one's ability, some devotees have great difficulty just fasting during the Janmashtami Vrata. And other devotees can do Chaturmasya for 4 months without any difficulty at all. It's according to one's nature. Some devotees have to struggle chanting 16 rounds, and other devotees have been chanting. I know one devotee's been chanting 32 rounds for many years. Some devotees can spend hours engaged in reading the Shastra, and other devotees have a very difficult time sitting down for 20 minutes. So it's according to one's nature. We cannot imitate these great souls. We shouldn't assume that, like Raghunath Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, every third day we can eat 1 palm full of buttermilk and manage to survive in this world. But at the same time, we can both perform austerities up to our own ability and embrace the mood of renunciation that the devotees have. Now, Archie Devi Dasi is asking the question, do we have to move into the temple to be a devotee? You have to move into the temple of your heart to be a devotee. The temple is not a four-walled building. Now, of course, we have temples that are there for the purpose of worshiping the deity, for the purpose of facilitating sadhu sangha, for the purpose of encouraging us to be able to come to a place to associate with each other. But it is not mandatory, going back to Godhead, that we live in such and such temple. It is not required. Maybe we live in an area where there is no temple. We should always take advantage of the association of devotees if we have a temple nearby. We should always take advantage of the association of devotees in whatever means we can. One might say that this internet chat room is a bit of a temple. What is the purpose of a temple? For devotees to gather together and discuss the pastimes of the Lord. So if you live in some remote part of the country, of the world, of the universe, where there is no temple in your area, and you're able to get onto the internet and listen to conversations on Monday night about the pastimes of the Lord's associates, or on Tuesday about improving your japa, or on Thursday about how to be a spiritual warrior like Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, or on Friday about what the principles of Bhagavad Gita are, then that is your temple. So living in the temple is about developing Krishna consciousness in every situation you're in. So if anybody has anything else, we can attempt to answer that. Otherwise, it's a bit after 9 o'clock, and we're going to finish here. Once again, we'd like to thank all the devotees who have tuned in. And Artik says, sorry, it's just that I heard you have to move into a temple. Well, probably it was a temple devotee that told you that. Bhakti Henry, RT lives in Wisconsin where there are no temples. Yeah. So you make your home a temple, RT. You put pictures of Krishna in your home. You set up an altar there. You do your devotional service there. Henry is asking, how do we attain Krishna consciousness immediately? Prabhupada said one can attain Krishna consciousness in a second, simply by chanting the holy name and remembering Krishna. Or we cannot attain it for many lifetimes. It's dependent upon us. The longevity of our smaranam, of our remembrance of Krishna, is what will foster the longevity of our Krishna consciousness. Like that. So we're going to finish for this evening. Once again, we thank you very much for joining us for another evening in the lives of the Vaishnava Acaryas. Hare Krishna.